Hey, Retcon Raider here. So, this is it. The end of my first year on YouTube. As hard as it is for me to believe it, it's already been 12 months since I first decided to try my hand at making videos. Prior to that, I had never even looked at video or audio editing software before. It's definitely been a very interesting first year, and I've had a lot of new experiences, both good and bad. More importantly, I've learned a lot about making videos over the past year, mostly through trial and error. Although I obviously still have a lot to learn, I think things have been coming along rather nicely so far. Of course, that's not to say I've done it all on my own. I've been lucky enough to get a lot of support from other people. I've got my tech guy, Revenant, who helps me with my hardware, and there have been plenty of other folks who have helped me fine-tune my audio or who have given me general advice about how to do things on YouTube or other social media platforms. Oh, and of course there are also my viewers. That's right, as I've said before, I certainly wouldn't be able to do this without your support. The channel has grown in leaps and bounds throughout our first year together, and in large part that's thanks to people like you who watch and share my videos, or in some cases, who are even willing to help support the channel financially. It's a bit of an understatement, but you guys are all great. At any rate, we'll circle back to that a little later in the video. For now, let's just take a look at the numbers for April. Now, according to the analytics, we pulled about 90,000 views and almost 600 new subscribers over the past month, which is actually a pretty significant boost over the numbers we saw in March. That's a 10% increase in views and a 100% increase in new subscribers. I guess it's not really that surprising, considering that I started the channel to talk about Phoenix Point, and April was a pretty big month for Phoenix Point. I'm sure a lot of those views and new subscribers came from people who just heard about the game, and are now trying to catch up on the latest news and lore by watching some of my older videos. It also helps that I started some big new video projects in April, most notably my series about the Pathfinder Kingmaker beta. This has all been a rather pleasant surprise, since I was actually a bit worried that the numbers were going to start backsliding this month. Due to various technical issues and production problems, April was the first month in quite some time where I didn't meet my production goal. I usually try to upload at least 5 new videos each week, but in April, I ended up falling a bit short. Like I said before, even 1 year in, I'm still doing a lot of this by trial and error, which means I'm going to end up making a lot of errors. This time around, I just ended up pushing myself a little too hard, which actually got in the way of producing more videos. Now, over the past few months, I've been steadily increasing my workload when it comes to the channel. I like to push myself so I can keep improving the quality and frequency of the videos I upload, but that was never going to be sustainable in the long run. Eventually, I was bound to run into a wall when I reached the limits of my current abilities. That's pretty much what ended up happening in April. All throughout March and early April, I started feeling increasingly sluggish. I was starting to feel like I was getting sick all the time. I was fatigued, distracted, and sometimes I was even suffering from headaches or blurred vision. I didn't think too much of it and generally just blamed it on things like too much caffeine, a poor sleep schedule, and the stress of trying to keep up with an unsustainable production schedule. I just kept plugging away at making videos, hoping that I could power through it. Unfortunately, when things just kept getting worse, I started worrying that it might actually be the first signs of burnout, that my brain was just rebelling against my constant production schedule. Between work and making videos, maybe I just wasn't getting enough time to properly rest and relax, and it was finally starting to catch up with me. Then, about 3 weeks ago, I woke up and realized that I'd basically gone blind. Now, I'm already pretty nearsighted, Coke bottle glasses and all, but this was pretty extreme. I could still see, but just barely, and some quick research online led me to the obvious cause for my recent problems. I was severely dehydrated. It turns out that when you spend hours of each day in a warm, poorly ventilated recording booth, you need to drink plenty of fluids. At some point, I guess I had just gotten so preoccupied with trying to maintain a constant production schedule that I just started neglecting that. It hadn't really been much of a problem during the winter months when it was cooler, but I live in a subtropical climate. The summer months can get pretty brutal. Anyway, long story short, I recognized the problem and immediately changed the way I do things. I rearranged my recording area to improve cooling and air circulation, and I've started making sure I stay properly hydrated. Thankfully, I haven't really had any problems since then. Now, aside from almost self-destructing, there were some other interesting highlights throughout April. I've already mentioned the unexpected success of my Pathfinder Kingmaker series, but I also finally started up my Battletech series. Obviously, I didn't really have a good debut with that game when I first played it last year, but that was pretty early in my YouTube career. I've learned a lot since then, and I'm hoping I can do it right this time around. I'll admit, I was disappointed when I found out that I wouldn't be able to customize my pilots, but apparently they're adding that feature back in with the first big content update. Now that I'll be able to include viewers, I plan on making this a long-running series. Well, at least until I get everyone killed and our company goes bankrupt. Oh, speaking of which, that means that the waiting list is officially open again, so be sure to let me know if you'd like me to add your name to the pool. Now, it is worth mentioning that the number of people I can recruit in Battletech is pretty limited. I can only fit 7 viewers in there during the early game, but as long as I stick with it, we'll eventually be able to increase the number of recruits to a total of 23 people at a time. I can also rename battle mechs, so even if you can't get in as a pilot, you can still suggest names for the numerous mechs that we'll be getting throughout the series. Aside from that, I've obviously also continued production on my other 2 long-running Let's Play series, Battle Brothers and Darkest Dungeon. They've slowed down a bit lately, but I'm still planning to put out at least 1 new episode every week, 2 when possible. I'm trying to make time for everything, but with all the new games coming out lately, it can be hard to juggle so many projects at once. Which, of course, brings us to Phoenix Point. Now, like I said before, April was a pretty big month for Phoenix Point, and I've started falling behind on my coverage. I'm hoping to fix that as we move into May, and I've already got at least 4 new videos in the works. It's going to be a while before some of them are ready, but I'm hoping to have at least 1 or 2 of them finished by the end of the week. There are also some other games that I'd love to talk about in May, but it's all going to depend on whether or not I can find time to fit them into my schedule. I've got my hands pretty full with the games I'm already covering, but like I said before, I do like to push myself. I'll certainly try to make time for games like Frostpunk and Pillars of Eternity 2, but I can't make any promises. So, what new videos can you expect to see in May? Well, we've pretty much covered most of it. I'll obviously continue playing Battle Brothers, Battletech, Darkest Dungeon, and Pathfinder Kingmaker, but I'll also try to do some videos about other games as well, as time allows. As for my scripted videos, well, we'll mostly just be talking about Phoenix Point, but I would like to sneak in at least 1 or 2 videos about Fallout Van Buren. Some of those projects are actually pretty close to being finished, so I'd really like to see them through. For example, my Battle Brothers series is right on the cusp of the final story event, the Undead Uprising. It's probably going to take another 10 or 12 episodes to actually complete that event, but then I think it's time to finally bring the series to an end. The Raiders have had a good run, but saving the world just feels like a good way to officially conclude their story. Besides, eventually it's just time to move on to some new projects. On a similar note, although I only managed to put out 1 video about Van Buren in April, it does put us 1 step closer to concluding that series as well. With just 2 more design documents to talk about, I'd say we're probably going to be wrapping up that series after about 5 or 6 more videos. I might end up going back to remake some of the earlier videos in the series, just to improve the presentation. But again, eventually I just need to move on to something new. Speaking of which, it's probably about time to start wrapping up this video. I've got at least 2 or 3 other projects I'd like to work on today, and I can't do that while I'm still working on this one. As usual, I'll end things by giving thanks to all the people who have helped get the channel to where it is today. I'd like to thank every single person who's ever watched one of my videos, even if you didn't end up liking it, because this is all one big learning experience. Whether the feedback you give me is good or bad, the important thing is that it all helps me continue to improve the quality of my videos. And of course, I'd like to give special thanks to the people who have been generous enough to continue supporting the channel financially. I know I've said it before, but the fact that there are people who are willing to help cover the costs involved with running the channel really helps. This is still just a hobby for now, but if the channel keeps growing at its current rate, who knows where we'll be a year from now. or 5 years from now, or 10. But I'm getting ahead of myself. For now, let me just give special thanks to my honorary raiders: Demetre Foster, James Trimmier, Kairon Xander, Mark Richards, Purge, Stjepan Lovasić, and Woe77. And let me give extra special thanks to my veteran raiders: AdriRaven, Drunken Gunslinger, Laura and Mike, Mildly Nuclear, Nazzul, and Sir Skelibate. I'd also like to give special mention to my 2 raider captains, Alluvian Est-Endrati and Rowan Church, as well as Revenant, who's once again the only person crazy enough to be a raider lord. Oh, and you know what? This is the channel's first anniversary, so let me properly acknowledge the raiders in training as well. Ainachit Singsirikol, Henrik Reimer, Lol32, Toko Natilla, Vuk Rules, and Zaki. You guys are all great too. I really appreciate your continued support. And of course, if anyone else is interested in helping the channel out financially, then feel free to check out the links to my PayPal or Patreon accounts in the description below. Games are expensive and every little bit helps. But hey, even if you can't or just don't want to throw money at some stranger on the internet, that's fine. As long as you're watching and hopefully enjoying my videos, that's good enough for me. At any rate, it's been an incredible first year, Raiders. Here's hoping that our second year is even better. This is Retcon Raider, signing off. Thanks for listening. Oh, and remember, if you need to contact me for any reason, you can do it through the comment section on any of my videos, or you can reach me through my Facebook page, my Patreon account, or my official email address. As always, links are in the description.